Was he on tour as well?
He was in Alaska, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Both on the West Coast.
That's got to be nice, though, because you both get it. So the tour life, the creating music, it's not a shock. Somebody's not upset. Oh, you're gone for a couple weeks.
Right.
What's happening here?
There's some negotiations about who gets to be gone for a couple weeks. But yeah.
That's cool. You guys kind of swap in and out. Like, okay, you can go now. I'm going to take the next one.
Yeah.
We'll shift in and out.
Yeah.
How old is your kid?
She's 4.
4? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Congratulations.
Thanks.
With you both creating music, does that help the creative process? Where he kind of can play. Do you guys play together, or do you try to keep that separate?
To both be musicians, or to have
both be musicians?
Yeah, in fact, we used to play a lot together, but a little bit less now with the...
Somebody's got to watch the kid.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for doing this. I'm excited to talk with you. I was happy I found you.
Yeah, this is great.
Do you like, with this tour, you created this album this year? It released in April?
It was released in April. So this is the West Coast leg of the tour.
Is this primarily what you're going to be playing tonight? Is from this album?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Do you, when you're creating something like that, culminating this album, specifically this one, I mean, your last one came out 2022? This one came out?
Yeah. My last band album came out in 2018. So actually, I did a couple like tangential like pandemic projects that came out in 21 and 22. But the last one that is like kind of the sound that I have when I tour. The albums that I made in the pandemic aren't touring. There's like one was a Christmas album, it's just kind of special, and then another was like a traditional Scottish fiddle tunes album.
Was that to kind of just fill the creative need? Like I just got to create something. I'm getting a little stir crazy sitting at home.
Yeah.
Is this another band album? This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that with the current band that you have now? Okay.
Yeah.
And who's playing with you tonight?
So tonight it's Keith Murphy on guitar and Tristan Claridge on cello.
And then Jana kind of swaps in and out.
Jana Moynihan. Yeah, she usually tours. She lives in Boston, so she tours on the East Coast with me.
Okay.
Tristan lives out here.
Oh, really? Does that make it a challenge? Does he go back east and play with you guys out there?
No, I just for the tour, I just do the trio. So the album was all 4. But the trio is just for the tour. It's a little easier and yeah.
Yeah, especially with being both coasts like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Make it a little more nice logistically. So for people that don't know, you started out in Oregon and you're working your way down to Northern California.
Yeah.
And where's the last stop of this tour?
The last stop is Berkeley at the Freight and Salvage.
Have you played there before?
I have.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Is it so you've hit Arcata before as well, you were just saying?
Yes, we just played Arcata last year.
But that wasn't part of a tour, that was just a stop?
It wasn't really a tour. I was going up to Port Orford, where I'm from, to do this little fiddle camp that I started last year. It's like a weekend-long camp. And so I was with Keith Murphy again and Jana Moynihan. They both came out to do the camp with me. And so we just did 2 shows, kind of just to... In fact, we were actually rehearsing for this album. So Tristan met us in Arcata and we did some rehearsing and he guested. He did a guest spot with us at the Playhouse that night.
Oh, that's cool. Is it weird coming back post-COVID doing a tour? Has it changed pre-COVID or is it's still logistically, it's all the same stuff?
It's the same stuff. I think, trying to figure out how to get people to come out. And I think people are a little bit more shy for many reasons about going out to like live events. But it feels actually on the East Coast, people maybe were a little faster. The West Coast seems like a little like not quite as fast to go out to big gatherings.
Really? I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have either, actually.
Maybe it's because people are stacked out there. So they're just like, we have to go out.
They're just like, whatever.
Yeah. So you're in Boston currently. That's where you live?
Yeah.
When did you make the move out there?
I moved there in 1996 to go to college.
And then just stayed. Loved it. You went to Berkeley?
Yeah.
Never looked back. Berkeley's kind of a change from Port Orford.
It is?
Sidewise.
Yeah.
I mean, just a little bit different.
Yeah. I went in 1996 for Berklee College of Music, and the Celtic music scene is really great there. So just kept going, just stayed and kept playing. I come back here a lot, and I think I sometimes get a little torn between the West Coast and the East Coast, my identity. But I think I'm probably firmly planted in the Northeast now.
Well, especially if you have a good music base out there and a good music scene for your style.
Yeah.
I would imagine that's helpful.
Yeah, the Celtic music scene is probably Boston's one of the most thriving places in the whole U.S. for Scottish, Irish, Cape Breton fiddle music.
Did you have any of that influence in Port Orford?
Yeah, I did Texas style fiddle first, which is quite big in the Northwest. And my fiddle teacher who lived in Portland had gotten into Scottish fiddle music, so I got some tunes from her, and then met this fiddle player named Alistair Fraser through her, and I ended up going to his camp on the Isle of Skye in Scotland and got connected with all that stuff.
And the rest is history.
Yeah.
It was funny. I was reading an article about you in preparation for this, and it was that you went to a fiddle contest in Crescent City, and that was kind of your first big outing. And for people that know, you think of Crescent City. I don't know if fiddle contest is kind of the first thing that comes to mind.
I know. We were just passing it today, actually. We were driving down from Port Orford, and we passed the Del Norte County Fairgrounds, and I just pointed to Keith. I was like, there you go. That's where I cried in the parking lot because I came in last.
Did that discourage you at all doing that?
No, actually, it was the opposite. I hadn't been to. I'd just been doing like Suzuki style violin, and I hadn't been around a lot of other people my age fiddling. So I went to this contest, and yes, I was like kind of really sad that I didn't place, or didn't. Not only did I not place, I came in at the very end, but but I just saw all these. I was very inspired by all these other musicians my age, like 11 and 12-year-olds, like playing phenomenally. And so I think it was a big inspiration. And I met the woman who became my fiddle teacher. She was there. And so I went to a camp of hers. And yeah, it was kind of a turning point.
Did you have to sell her and say, hey, I know I came in last, but I can do something?
I don't think she saw me. I don't think she saw me play.
Okay.
And in fact, she wasn't my private teacher right away. We went to a camp of hers that was in Yoncalla, Oregon, another tiny, tiny little town. We went to that camp the next summer, and then we my mom just asked her if she would give me private lessons. So that was in Portland. She lived in Portland, so we drove like 5.5 hours north to have lessons like 4 times a year. Yeah.
What a drive.
Yeah.
And would do a lesson for a couple hours, I would imagine.
She'd give me like a 2 or 3 hour lesson. Like parents would drop me off. They'd go like shopping. Because when you live in these small towns, that when you get to like Portland or Eugene or wherever,
you gotta
you gotta go to Costco, you gotta go to the mall, like, yeah.
Is that why you're still kind of attached to the camp aspect? Is kind of giving back in that way?
Yeah, and then Alistair Fraser, this fiddle player that I met in Scotland, his camp on the Isle of Skye was just life changing. Like it was like we stayed up all night playing tunes and dancing, and so I think that I've never stopped going to camp since then. Like I started teaching at them when I was 20, and I teach at like 6 camps now in the summer.
Is it an instrumental process where you guys are kind of teaching them how to play, or just teaching them fundamentals?
For the most part, people all know how to play when they get there. It's all different ages. So some camps maybe have more kids, but still have adults. And then some camps really have more adults and less kids. And so, but there are, every so often, there are some beginner classes, but for the most part, people know how to play, and you're teaching them how to play like specifically a fiddle style. So like, I'll be teaching Scottish fiddle music or contemporary Scottish fiddle music, like teaching a tune and teaching all the stuff that goes with it.
Kind of just breaking it down for them.
Mm-hmm.
And your initial start was classical music, right? Is that kind of where you began?
Barely. Like I did Suzuki violin for 2 years, which is classical, but it was such a short period of time. I would say most of my training, like that would have been in the Texas contest fiddle scene, which places a strong importance on technique, like classical. I would say Scottish, Irish fiddle music, like technique, maybe as far as like intonation and bowing and shifting. Like that's not necessarily the most important part. It's like groove is really the most important part, I'd say, of Celtic music. But because the Texas fiddle style, which is what I did first, it's all contest based in the Northwest, at least not in Texas. It's really about trying to play as perfect as you can, which I think would be the equivalent of maybe growing up in the classical scene, just really focusing on trying to do some of those technical things.
Is Texas, would that be bluegrass? I was trying to envision
It's different, actually.
Different,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, Texas so there's like Texas style fiddle, and then I say Texas contest fiddle. They're both similar. They're both the same thing, but I'd say that just Texas fiddle without the contest aspect would be loosely based on old time tunes like Appalachian music. But it's kind of taken to a new level and a new style formed where people were kind of trying to make up variations on an old time tune. And so just like play the tune for a longer period of time and make up these pretty intricate variations. And then when it kind of entered the contest scene, these variations was like, who can play the coolest variations? That's the part of the contest I really like. I think sometimes the contests just become about who can play this specific version as well as they can. And that part's maybe less creative and
almost just recreate the song.
Yeah. And so I kind of like in Texas, I haven't actually been to these contests, but I've heard that the contests are a little different down there and people are really actually trying to improvise and like outplay each other in that way, which seems more fun and creative.
Does that creativity kind of lend itself to the Celtic style? It's not as structured, I guess you would say?
Yeah, I mean the Celtic style, like Scottish fiddle music, is really based around just playing tunes and putting them in medleys, which means more than one tune together. Like you could string like 4 tunes together. You play them each 2 or 3 times. It doesn't have an improvisational history necessarily, and it's mostly melodic playing. And it's really for dancing. So like Celtic, Scottish and Irish music, they have step dances that go with them, and they have set dances like with people. And I think one thing I like to do in my music is maybe coming from some of that Texas fiddle scene where we would make up variations to tunes. I just compose a lot of music now in the Scottish fiddle scene. And so I find I'm able to kind of use some of those tools or some of that experience in the Texas scene when I compose Scottish fiddle tunes.
Is it hard composing this kind of music where it's so heavily focused on the instrument, as opposed to if you were creating like a pop song, you could kind of lean on the vocals a little bit more? But it's you guys just playing.
No, because I think it's not hard. There's a strong tradition of tune writing in Scottish music. There's a lot of people. It's actually very thriving scene. Like there's some famous fiddle players, Liz Carroll, Jerry Holland, that have written all these tunes that kind of become part of the traditional like repertoire. And so I think those people that came before me, I'm very inspired by their tune writing, and so then
they kind of paved the way for you. Is it hard creating something new where there is such a rich history that you don't want to be the one that's kind of just repurposing old tunes? I
think that maybe the one thing that's hard sometimes is you want to, you write something and then you're like, oh, has that already been written? You hear it and you're like, did I accidentally steal that from someone else? So, but usually you can just change it if you figure it out in time.
That would be the challenge, is figuring it out in time, right? You record it, you put it out, you start touring it, and then you're like, oh, maybe I did hear that portion somewhere else. That would be challenging.
Yeah.
You've been it's interesting that you've been doing this for so long. This is not your first rodeo. Your first album was 2003?
Is that right? It might have been 2001. The first album, yeah.
That's a long time.
It is a long time, yeah.
When did you start touring?
Probably right around then.
Same time?
Yeah. I did, so I would have just graduated from college then. I was doing some shows and stuff. I used to come actually back home to Port Orford every year and do a concert with some friends of mine from Seattle. They would come down. So I'd kind of done one-off concerts, but I think right around the time I graduated with that new album that came out. And then I also, back then, I had a gig playing as just a side fiddle player in a singer's band. So I toured with an Irish singer for like 4 or 5 years.
Is that how most people start out? Is you're kind of playing, you form up with a band and maybe you're just playing an instrument in it to kind of get experience, or?
Yeah, I think as an instrumentalist, so I front a band now, but I'm still just playing, I'm not singing, I'm playing instrumental fiddle music, I think. But it was a nice thing to do, to tour with somebody who was, more experienced than I was, and was like, she was already like famous, and so that was really great actually, to get that experience of traveling, and she was very good at managing her band, and so I think I took a lot of that when I started touring with my own band. I was like, oh, like Kathy did it this way and this way, like this was great, like, so it was really nice. And also, when you're starting out, you're not going to get like really great gigs. So it's nice to have a really great gig playing for somebody else and to be able to kind of contribute in that way.
And have a little stability.
Mm-hmm.
Did you find, for somebody who's not obviously in a band or in that field, it seems like finding the right band would be the challenge. Is finding a group of people that you can kind of connect with and enjoy playing music with, because you hear all these stories about great breakup bands and then it just gets chaotic and everybody falls apart.
Well, I was at Berkeley, and so fortunately I met
You're surrounded by
some
people.
great musicians. Yeah. The band that I played with then is not actually who I'm playing with now, but it's based on that kind of sound. I met a cello player there, and a guitar player who I played with a bunch, and then we kind of like, people just, I never really broke up with anyone. We just had different projects and stuff. And then I met actually the guitar player that I play with now, Keith Murphy. I met maybe in 2004 as part of another group that we were both playing in. And we really hit it off. And then it's fun because Tristan is from out here. He's from just like he lives up on the Salmon River somewhere west of here. East. I do this all the time now. I used to, when I moved to the East Coast, I forget that East is away from the ocean now again. You can tell that
That's right,
having identity problems here. Anyway, Tristan and I had grown up in the Texas fiddle scene a little bit together. He was a lot younger than I was, but it's been fun. He only just started playing in my band in 2018. So that's newer, but it's based on this sound that I had before.
Is that how you're basing it off of the people that you're picking? Is it ability, or is it more similar style and pursuit of that style?
It would be all of those things. Yeah.
Obviously, you don't want
Tristan's
somebody that doesn't know how to
brilliant,
play.
like he said. Yeah. So, but we also like really gel well together stylistically.
Which is probably 90% of it.
Yeah. It's all in there.
He grew up around here. Is there a pretty good music scene of fiddle playing here locally, or in this area of Oregon, Northern California?
He grew up in the Texas style scene. I'm sure there's a great bluegrass scene too. I don't know as much about the bluegrass scene, but the contest scene, there's just Texas fiddle contests all over around here. Like there's one in Red Bluff, and I used to go to one in Redding, Crescent City. I went to one in like Canyonville, Oregon, and they're just kind of
So you were hitting the scene for a while.
The contest.
The contest scene.
Yeah.
It wasn't a one and done.
No. It's kind of like a thing. You go to like 4 or 5 contests a year, and then the nationals are in Idaho. And Tristan has won that several times on fiddle. He's playing cello in my band, but he's won the national fiddle contest like 1,000 times or something. Like
He's pretty seasoned.
Very seasoned.
Is that a lucrative way to make money, traveling from contest to contest, or is it just it pays for the contest and then you can go to the next one?
Oh yeah, I guess. Well, so I didn't win the Texas contest that much, and I was really only a kid when I was doing it, so I wasn't really doing it to make money. But it's true. I think these days, yeah, you can make some money at it. I think ultimately, like doing concerts is a better thing. Yeah,
that would seems like that would be the pursuit. Is okay.
Yeah.
Let's get to concerts when we can do that.
Yeah.
Then you also competed in some Scottish festivals or contests. Mm-hmm. Was that in the States?
Yeah, those are all in the States. Yep.
Pretty similar scene to the Texas
Actually,
fiddle.
very different scene. Not as competitive. Not as many people. Actually, I think there's a strong within the Texas fiddle community. There's a strong community of contest. Like the contest is a major component of Texas style fiddling. Scottish music, there's many Scottish fiddle players who have never competed. So it's just kind of this other thing that is also there. And I won in Oregon, and then I flew to the East Coast, and I won the national junior contest. But for like comparison, when I won the national junior contest, there were like 8 people I was competing against. They had all been invited because you had to like win a regional. But the Texas fiddle, there's like 80 people, and like they have 4 rounds, and they cut a bunch of people the first round, and there's judges. There's like 5 judges sitting in another room. They throw out the high and the low scores. Scottish, there's like 3 judges sitting right in front of you. Like, so yeah, it's just a very different scene.
Different feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like it'd be a little less pressure.
It is less pressure. There's something about, at least for me, playing and looking at the judges that actually felt more comfortable than like playing for people that were like sitting in another room. I think maybe because ultimately I kind of like performing and I like interacting with people. And so when they're sitting in another room, they're only listening, and you have to play perfect. And I never. If anyone's ever heard me, they know that I don't play perfect. So,
well, yeah,
that is not my strength.
You have the buildup of you can't see them, and that means you can't feel their expressions. So if you're playing to just
you're just trying to nail it.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, that would.
And I nail it
destroy me
50% of the time.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do that. That would not be that. Obviously, that's why I'm doing this and not playing music. Is the idea of performing in front of judges would be slightly challenging. When did you get out of that scene? Was that when you went to college?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't. I stopped competing Texas Fiddle when I was 18. I came back one time to the Nationals in Idaho when I was like 30 or 29, just for fun, because it's actually a really fun scene there. People like camp all night and they jam. And there is a lot of the bluegrass is more like the jamming scene and stuff. And so a lot of Texas fiddle players do play bluegrass as well. But anyway, I went back and I didn't even make the cut. This was after 10 years of being a professional musician.
Well, yeah, it's rigged. I'm done. I don't need this.
My name is not on there.
Was that a weird feeling where you were a professional at that time? And you're like,
no, because it's such a specific thing, Texas fiddle, and I hadn't played it for 10 years, so it wouldn't have made sense if I've gotten so into the Celtic scene. I did not feel bad that I did not make the cut. Unlike that when I was 10 and I was at the Del Norte County Fairgrounds parking lot when I was sobbing.
Well, yeah, you have a little more experience under your belt too.
Yeah.
For a kid, getting crushed like that is a little rough, especially your first one. You're going okay,
yeah,
we're gonna give this a shot.
Yeah.
And then you just get
I played there's this tune called Boil Them Cabbage Down that's just 2 notes. And the kid who won played one of the hardest tunes. There was no contest.
You were just there for the experience. So let's go to Crescent City for the day.
Yeah.
Why specifically this Scottish style? What is it about that really attracted you?
I think when I went to Skye for the first time, there were a couple things. People were just dancing all night, it was so fun and so amazing, and they were having such a good time. And I kind of will describe this scene sometimes where people were doing this dance called Strip the Willow, where you kind of turn your partner, you turn your center person, and people were just almost getting flung across there's this old stone barn, and it was so dangerous but also so fun. And then people would be dancing, and then they'd just start jamming, and then maybe there'd be a moment someone would turn out the lights and someone would just be we're gonna sing a song, and then someone would sing some beautiful song in Gaelic, and you just be crying because it was so gorgeous. And I think it's maybe a little bit more my personality that's just really fun, or just having just really feeling deeply. And so I felt that Scottish music, I was able to feel deeply, one way or another, feel deeply with joy or with sadness or whatever. And yeah.
It had that more expressive performance aspect, I guess. Yeah. Well, that's what I think of when I think of Scottish music as a dance or a festival or some celebration. Whereas you don't necessarily think of that when you're thinking classical specifically. It's okay, it's a little more, I don't know if you would say emotional with attitude.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously classical music is very emotional too, but it's not as groove based. I think there's some types of classical music, the Baroque style is centered around dances and dancing, but most of the classical scene is not about dancing. It's really about the performance and the the orchestration or the arrangement or whatever.
Do you have any family ties to Scotland or anything like that?
A little bit, I have a great grandmother who was born in Scotland, but everything else is German, English, Danish.
And your mom is the tie to music, right? She was the music teacher.
My mom's a retired music teacher. She was the piano teacher in our town for a long time, and then she actually taught K through 8 general music. And yeah, she was my music teacher in school.
Was she surprised at all to kind of see your evolution throughout the years of this?
I don't think surprised. I think it was nice, because she went to the contest with me, and we did a lot of. She went to Scotland with me. She took the step dancing class while I took the Scottish fiddle class, and it was great because she was able to bring that stuff back to our school, and she taught a bunch of kids to step dance in Port Orford, Oregon.
Oh wow! Yeah. Adding a little culture up there. Well, that's cool. Where has been your favorite place to travel to? Because you've been on all over the world doing this.
Yeah. It's funny. I mean, yeah, I have some favorite places in the world, but I was definitely like proud. I was telling Keith and Tristan yesterday, I was like, Battle Rock Beach in Port Orford, Oregon is the most beautiful beach in the whole world. So I always love coming home because it's so beautiful there. But I'd say I spent a long time in Shanghai, China. And that has been one of my favorite places. I actually ended up living there for 3 months. I went over because a friend lived over there and I played a few shows. I actually ended up playing bluegrass I got a bluegrass gig at a bar just because I was like American and, I was playing with this Inner Mongolian mandolin player. We had this little band. Anyway, I love China. I love the people over there. I love the food. And I studied Chinese for 3 months. And so that was one of my most favorite places.
Was that just a detour? You went over there for a concert and then wanted to stay? Or?
Yeah, I went over just for like a couple weeks because of this friend. She invited me over to play a concert. And then I liked it so much that I kind of just made time every spring to go there for a couple weeks. And it wasn't even really like, I wasn't really paying, making enough money to even pay for my flight. It was almost kind of like this retreat. It's weird because people usually go on like a retreat to the woods or something. And I went to one of the biggest cities in the whole world. But there was something really nice actually about just like kind of living in this very, very foreign country for a few weeks every year. And then finally in 2011, I went and lived there for 3 months. And I'd say it's one of my favorite phases of life. It just really kind of reset me and it was great.
Were you looking for kind of a break or just like a moment to decompress?
Yeah, I think I had actually been in 2011, I had been touring a lot and I actually just put kind of a pause on some gigs and I studied Chinese every morning and I was like taking walks I don't know, I just was I was playing music a little bit, but for the most part I was kind of living like a life with like a routine and then also like going out karaokeing all the time with friends and like, it's just, I've never lived in New York City and I think maybe everyone at some point in their life should just live in like a huge major city. Like Shanghai's is 3 times as big as New York City. So it's just like, there's like a hustle and a bustle. Like it just was very exciting. And the kind of, I had made friends with a lot of other foreigners who lived there. So everyone's kind of like ready to go. Like they just want to do stuff and like have fun. And like, it was a good time of my life to do that. And then I felt maybe a little bit more grounded when I got back to Boston and was able, start touring again and
There's something romantic about the idea of getting lost in a big city.
Yeah.
About just like blending in with the crowd. And going to this place
I did not blend in.
Well, that's true, right? You probably stood out over there.
Yeah, that was fun. I feel like most of my life I do blend in and China is one place that, and it was so funny because I would, I'd want to try speaking my Chinese and no one would speak to me in Chinese. Like they would all there's no way she knows any Chinese. I mean, I didn't know much, but.
Well, Mandarin's a hard language. That's what you were studying at then? That's a hard language to learn.
Yeah, it's hard.
So they were just like, okay, let's go.
I mean, they probably couldn't understand me when I tried talking anywhere. I was like, like saying it really slow. Yeah.
Did they speak a lot of English in Shanghai? Enough to get around?
No. People do not speak much English there. But I was hanging out with a lot of people who were either Chinese American or people who did speak, a couple of musician friends of mine who are Chinese, and they've lived their whole lives there, but they've been around a lot of foreigners. So they spoke some English. But it would be like Europe or something where like people speak English as well as we do.
Yeah.
But I learned enough Chinese to be able to get around. Like I could talk to cab drivers and I could like buy stuff and I could order food and things like that.
By day to day.
Yeah, it was all like very basic things. But I started learning the city really well, and my section of the city I knew very well. So, if the cab driver started going the wrong way, I'd be like, right turn,
okay, yeah,
stop here. Yeah, yeah.
And were you practicing at that time, or you weren't really doing a lot musically?
I brought my fiddle and I was practicing. I would say I was not doing as much musically that that section of time. Then, but I still wrote some tunes. And then I think actually maybe the more exciting thing was that when I got back, I was feeling very inspired and I wrote tons of music when I got back. So I actually made an album after that trip called Dot the Dragon's Eyes, which is actually a Chinese, it's like a proverb. It's Hua Long Dian Jing is how you say it in Chinese. And it comes from the story of an artist painting the picture of a dragon. And the last thing he does is dot the dragon's eyes. And when he does that, the whole thing comes to life. And that story just felt kind of resonated with, it's like, you write music and you do whatever you do in life, but it's actually like this like tiny final thing that you have to do to actually like breathe life into something, whether it's music or art or a book or whatever.
That's an interesting concept. It's like you have to dot your I's at the end, otherwise it's not finished yet.
Yeah.
What was the decision to finally come back at the end of those 3 months? Was it just a feeling you were ready?
I set that when I went. Like the course was actually 5 months, but I think I had a festival in Australia. I had something that I could not get out of. So I came home. I think I had a concert in Boston. I came home and did that, and then I immediately flew to Australia for a folk festival, which was like back and forth.
And a big culture shift bouncing around like that. To go from China and then come back and go to Australia.
Yeah. Australia, I would have to say, out of all of my traveling, it has the least cultural shift to America, even less than like England. I feel like Australians are just kind of like sarcastic and kind of, making fun of each other all the time. It feels it doesn't feel American, but it feels like simpatico.
Adjacent, like cousins.
Yeah, exactly.
Cousins to America.
Exactly.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
Huh. I mean, what a great way to travel, though, is just playing music.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, where do I want to go now? How do you book your tours for that when you're going to go overseas? Is it where you want to go or where people want
When
you
I
to
go overseas, it's just because someone's asked me to come over there. Like, I haven't actually done huge tours. I've basically just flown places for a festival and then maybe added on a couple gigs. Or I do get asked to fly teach at a camp or something, like a workshop, like a week-long workshop.
Do you enjoy is there a difference between the workshops and going out there to just do a concert in terms of how long you're staying?
Yeah, I mean, the reason I like going somewhere to do a camp/workshop is that you're in the same place for a week and you're kind of hanging out with one group of people for a week, which is a really nice way to learn about, another country. It's kind of like if someone came here and they came to Northern California and they hung out with a bunch of folk musicians for like 7 days. That would be like just a really nice cross section, like, Americans. Like, so I think I teach at a camp every year in Germany. I've taught in India. I've taught in Australia. I've taught in Switzerland. So like, yeah, it's just a nice way to connect with people.
I think it's really cool that you still do the teaching aspect.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great way to kind of connect, especially with people who are still progressing through it.
Yeah. There's just a nice vibe at these camps where you kind of, you learn, teach during the day, but then you have all this nice community time. You eat together, you jam together, you dance together. It's just, it's fun.
Are you pulling stuff from those experiences that you kind of apply to your albums as well? Almost like the same with the China situation?
Yeah. Actually, 1 year after going to New Zealand, I wrote a bunch of tunes, and one of them, I kind of arrived in New Zealand for the first time, and I was just like, kind of like, it's like beautiful. And I was looking around, and I like, this person from the camp picked me up, and I was like, I'm so glad I'm here. I really want to see a kangaroo. And she just looked at me. She's like, oh my gosh, like there's no kangaroos in New Zealand. And I was like, oh, well, I didn't know that. So I wrote this tune actually. The camp I was going to is called SHISSF, SHISSF, Southern Hemisphere International School of Scottish Fiddle. And I wrote this tune called the SHISSF Kangaroo. And it just kind of reminds me of that car pickup where I like embarrassed myself.
Take me to the kangaroos.
Yeah.
They're probably used to that though.
They are, and I think that's what makes it worse.
That's a good point.
We are not Australia. But yeah, I have a lot of little moments like that and connections with people.
It seems like that is just part of the process, is you almost have to live experiences so that you can pull them into your music. Because if you're not doing anything, you're not traveling, you're not experiencing something new, how do you find something to write about?
Yeah, I mean, there's been sections of my life where I've done it. I've drawn inspiration from traveling, but I think you can also, like, I had a child like 4 years ago, like, and even just, having people in my life, like people that get married or people that have a kid or whatever. Like, I think these are all
just life experiences
that you can still draw from. And then sometimes I'm just like practicing a lot and playing a lot of traditional tunes that have already been written. And then I'm like, oh, I need to write a new tune that kind of sounds like this tradition. You can get inspired just by playing too. It doesn't have to be some thing that you go through or that you do or whatever.
How do you build up your song? Are you starting with just a riff and then kind of honing that and seeing where that goes?
There's different ways. Sometimes I'll play the piano and I'll sing the tune, and sometimes I'll just be jamming. Maybe I'll write the ending first. I often will record like in a voice memo, and then I'll just kind of go back. Maybe I'll just play for a while, and then I'll go back and be like, "Oh, that sucks. That's good." Like whatever. Like, so there's a lot of different processes, and different tunes have different journeys.
When you're recording into your phone, are you kind of humming the tune into that, or you're actually playing into your phone?
I'll do both. I think I'm humming if I'm playing the piano, because sometimes that would be a more chord-based tune that I might write, where I'm actually like playing chords and singing the melody. But the ones that I write on the fiddle would be more kind of melody-driven.
Okay, well, Hanneke, thanks for coming on and chatting with me.
Yeah.
Do you want to plug your show tonight, where people can find you, your next few shows? Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, we're playing, as I was saying, this is our 4th show. We're playing at the Arcata Playhouse tonight at 7 p.m. I love this venue. I've played here 10 times or something. There's a bunch of fiddle camp friends that live in Humboldt County, so hoping to see some of them tonight. That's tonight at 7 p.m. with Keith Murphy and Tristan Claridge. And then we're doing a couple house concerts. We're doing a house concert in Santa Rosa tomorrow night. And then we're playing the Nevada Theater in Nevada City on Wednesday. And then we're playing the Freight and Salvage in Berkeley, California on Thursday.
And the Berkeley one, that rounds out the tour for you guys. And then you're heading back to Boston?
I'm actually driving back to Port Orford. I'm doing a little fiddle camp, very like a mini camp next weekend in Port Orford. And then I will fly back after that.
And if people want to sign up for the camp, can they still?
The camp is actually sold out. It's full.
Oh, good.
Yeah. But yeah.
Okay.
That one's
awesome.
full.
Well, thank you, Hanneke. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.